Hello, everybody. My name is Coach Ray Z, and today my guest is Wendie. Uh, this episode is called Woo Woo Fitness. Wendie, you have to tap on the monkey to unmute.
Yeah, I was waiting till you were done.
Oh, okay.
Hey.
Welcome. And for everybody listening in or first time here, I thought it'd be pretty cool to show you that you can watch the show live, even on your desktop, or if you don't have an Apple. If you're watching on Fireside, you can share the link with anybody by clicking on the two lines on the bottom, and you can text it or you can DM it. There's a link direct to your Facebook or Twitter on there. So that's a very cool feature. Thought I would share that. All right. Okay. And today we're going to be talking about, I guess, what we would call woo woo fitness, what a lot of people may not consider something effective as far as in sports or sport development. I got some research I've done, uh, but Wendie is basically a Reiki practitioner, and actually she does a lot. So, uh, what is it? Would it be considered sound healing?
Yes.
Sound healing, and then you're a level 2 in spinning.
Yes.
Okay,
Spinning
and
master, Reiki master, sound healer, cool person.
that is true. Um, So I guess before I continue, I just wanted to mention a little bit because I know people are going to be like, "Well, real athletes would never believe in some sort of woo-woo fitness or superstitious." So I did a little research, and uh, I'll probably mispronounce his name, but there was a guy named Moses Alou who used to basically piss on his hands every time, and a Major League Baseball player, and he did that every time because he thought it like hardened it so that he could hit the bat better. The bat better. Then there's Wayne Gretzky. He always put baby powder on his stick before, and he had some sort of combination where he would like drink Diet Coke, Gatorade, water, and then a Diet Coke. Kevin Garnett, since high school, he'd like pound his head up against the basketball court, and he'd always eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich before every game. In baseball, if you're throwing a no hitter, no one talks to you. No one will mention no hitter. You kind of have to sit by yourself. Um, there's a basketball player. He's retired now. His name's Jason Terry. He uh, he would always wear 5 pairs of socks. Um, in the NHL, which I don't really watch, during the playoffs, all the players attempt to grow their beards. Some sort of superstition. Now, these last couple ones to me are really, really strange. There was Jason Giambi, who he said basically he had a golden thong that he would wear only when he was in a slump. And I guess it worked so much, he made like $120 million that according to some of his teammates, he would let them use it when they were in a slump.
Wait, he loaned out his thong?
According to what I read, and I checked more than one source just to be like, is that right?
I don't know. I'm gonna fact check that after this.
Yes, please do. And okay, so this one's not as strange as the last one. Michael Jordan always wore the same shorts that he wore in North Carolina under his shorts. And then I would say this is probably the strangest one of them all. And it seems to be in a lot of sports. Machida, Loyal Machida from UFC. I'm not sure if he's still in there. Let's see. Ben Jones, an NFL player, and Juan Manuel Marquez, who's best known for fighting Manny Pacquiao. They would drink their piss basically on a daily basis. And so, if you think that there's no such a thing as woo woo in sports or pro athletes don't use it, you are completely wrong. And I also know that athletes, when they're injured or even not injured, they want to hit peak performance. So I know of many athletes using NLP as well as Reiki. And so that's why I wanted to bring you on. A lot of people may not think that Reiki is valuable at all. So uh, let's talk a little bit about that and your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So, those are interesting facts. I've not heard many of them. I've heard of the drinking the tea before, but I don't know about a daily basis. I think that's really like over the top, and I could never picture myself doing any of these things. So, I want to go back a step before we go to Reiki and just define like what is woo woo things, right? Like what is this idea of woo woo? Because I think that it gets a bad rap, and a lot of times, especially because I'm Latina. So I don't know if you noticed, like I'm like you, I'm not white American. So a lot of times when you hear about woo-woo things, you're thinking of a white woman in yoga pants doing some sort of like crystal dance in the middle of the forest or whatever. Like there's always this mental picture that comes up that is not consistent with me, essentially. But I think what you're talking about also is it's not consistent with people who are practicing just regular wellness. And so I try to tell people there's a difference between wellness, holistic wellness, and then the woo woo practices, right? And like they get a bad rap, but a lot of them are based in historical, factual information about holistic healing. And so if you're bringing together holistic wellness and holistic healing, you have a really good basis for maintaining your body and its functioning over time, right? So it's not just spiritual, it's kind of mixing spirituality with physicality and bringing all of this into a way that you can embody, like you said, peak performance. So the goal of any of these practices of self betterment are really it's really about getting to your highest self. So what is your highest expression of who you truly are, and that's really the basis of this work. And so as you do energy healing, as you do sound healing, as you do meditation, a lot of these practices help ground you and help bring you back into your body, bring you back into the space where you're paying attention. And when you're paying attention, you have a little bit more of a connection with your body. And so for people like athletes, that's a good thing because as you want to perform, you want to have awareness of what's going on with your body. So that's kind of how all of this fits together. And I think people tend to grab onto words and make these things for themselves but not really think about how it all comes together and works for you. So that's really why when you said, oh, let's do this conversation, I was like, great. This is a great opportunity to express how you can build these pieces in and they actually help bolster whatever you're already doing with your wellness. So if you're already a runner, if you're already a biker, if you're already something else that is a regular, weightlifter, whatever it is, you can add these things in to just incorporate into your lifestyle. So the one thing I'll say about energy healing is energy is all of us are made out of energy. It's something the whole universe is made out of. It's undeniably part of our life, right? We use it in ways sometimes that we don't even think about. And we give energy to each other, and we also receive energy from a lot of things around us, including our plants, our animals, all of those things. And so anything in that space is fair game for understanding how you work with energy. So in Reiki, what we do is actually help clear up any blockages in your energy field. It could be in your aura, it could be an unbalanced chakra, it could be a number of things, energetic cords from past generations, trauma, like all these different things that attach to you. And the way that I help people understand it is you have an energy field, you're made out of energy. And you know how when you go into a field and there's those little burrs that really suck to step on and they get stuck in your pants and they get stuck in your shoelace and whatever? That is what negative energy is on your energy field. It's just like those little burrs. And when you use Reiki to clear them off, it helps release all of those burrs. And what that does for you as a person is helps bring out and express your highest self. And so and removing these blockages is just part of the process of healing. And I think a lot of people would kind of conceptualize Reiki as kind of a laying of hands of sort because the energy is actually passed through the practitioner's palms. And so the practitioner does a little practice, does a prayer, starts setting intention for whatever the healing is, and then they go about the session. As the session progresses, different things release, and sometimes the people who are actually receiving the treatment, they'll get hot. People have told me they thought I was pounding on their head, and I literally was like touching nothing related to their head at all. People have cried. I've had people who like definitely had emotional experiences, and when they woke up from their kind of meditation state, they had to really compose themselves before they could go home. And so Reiki is truly a powerful practice, and you don't want to jump into it blind, because there are some health conditions that you should not be actually doing Reiki for. And so if you have high blood pressure, for example, I have high blood pressure, but I actually manage it with Reiki. And some people, that actually is a bad practice for them to have high blood pressure. So you just want to make sure that you're always checking with your practitioner. You're talking to whoever you're working with, making sure that they're knowledgeable and that they're going to work on you according to what your intent is for that session. So I know that's a lot of information. Feel free to ask me any questions.
Oh no, that was good. I actually never knew that there was some instances where you shouldn't be practicing or having anyone practice on you. Um, and if anyone is interested in getting more information, just so you know, on the fortune cookie, I put a Wendy's link tree. And this is cool. This is like an 80s, 90s TV show where basically some character would come on, and then from there they'd have their own TV show. Because Wendy is a creator here on Fireside, and this is kind of going to be like her spinoff. So she will be giving more information about this. So there's more to come, and to kind of just give people a background on you. Let's start, in the beginning. As a child, were you active, and then how did you get into Reiki?
I was not at all active. I was I like Twinkies child. I was a latchkey kid. I hardly played outside. I would hang out and watch cartoons. So I was definitely an overweight kid. And as I grew up, I didn't come to wellness until I was probably about 18. And that was my first time I had a gym membership. And I just was like a gym rat from then on. And I've just always had gym in my routine at least 3 to 5 days a week. And so that was the basis of it. And that was over 20-ish something years ago, plus, right? And the thing is, yeah, I'm not disclosing my age on your podcast. But what I will say is the wellness piece has kind of developed over time. Like, I didn't get to this idea of holistic wellness until probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And that really came out of several trips to the hospital, several times that I actually was my blood pressure was so high that they thought I was going to have a stroke. I mean, there was just some serious consequences of being stressed. And one of the reasons that I'm no longer in the government field that I was in before is because that's not healthy for me. And that's not the way that I want to live my life. And so as I started peeling back the onion of like what was wrong, there were pieces of my wellness that just weren't there. And I had to really infuse effort in my life to go through the process of clearing them up. So whether that's my financial wellness and getting out of debt, or whether that's finishing up with the job that I didn't like anymore and taking another one and then becoming an entrepreneur, like whatever that road is, I was always constantly going further and saying, okay, what can I do next? Where can I work next? What's going on? What books do I need to read? Who am I talking to? What does my social space look like? And so those questions, asking myself those questions all the time, eventually led me to the fact that my spirituality had been completely absent for my life, like period. And I hadn't really gone to church. I hadn't practiced Christianity in a number of years. And I was just like, okay, well, where am I? I've explored all the major religions and done, a lot of different things in terms of meditation and yoga and Buddhism and all these other things. And I felt like I didn't have an answer for myself of what I really believed. And I thought that that was really weird. I felt like I was not like I hadn't made a decision. That was a major life decision that a lot of people make. Like, what do you believe in, right? And so I happened upon Reiki through a friend a couple years about, no, it was about, God, probably 18 years ago. And he did a session on me. So I'd known about Reiki for a long time. And when my yoga studio said, hey, we're having a Reiki 1 and 2 immersion, and it's actually a shout out to Maureen at Clarksburg Yoga and Wellness. She's the best. She's an awesome collaborator with the wellness grind stuff that I do. And so she offered Reiki in her studio, and that was with my Reiki master, Tiffany. So Tiffany is technically called a Reiki master, but we call her a Reiki mother because she's just a mothering, awesome vibe. And so she did a weekend, 2 weekends in a row, or no, maybe it's like spread out almost over the course of like a month-ish. And you do Reiki 1, which is helping you to heal yourself and really getting attuned to the practice and learning about energy and how you work with it. And then Reiki 2 is where you learn how to work on other people. And that's when you really start doing some more of the cool stuff. You get some symbols, you get some other things that you get in your toolbox. And then I took a year where I just played with it, and I just did, Reiki. I did distal Reiki. I can send it across time and across space and all these other things. And so I've done that for about a year with different clients and different people. And then she offered Reiki master level practitioner, and I was like, okay, let's go see what this is about. And it was more of an eye-opening experience than it really was a new skill, because the skill I already had. So the only thing that I learned was how to give the skill to other people. So it's called an attunement, and it's a process that you do so that the other person can start feeling the energy and channeling energy. And so I just did that in May, and I've been, continuing to work with the new tools in my tool belt since then.
Oh, that's very cool. Now, you also had that spinning. So did you get into the spinning
So
before Reiki,
I went
or
hard
was that
for 2016. I just did all the things.
wait? You did everything the same year?
Well, yeah, no, everything just started coming between 2016 and 2019, like just stacked on, like new skills, new things, like over and over again, new things. And so one of them was I had taken spin for at least 10 years by that point, and I was like, maybe I should just teach. I like music. I'm pretty good at being a DJ for a party. Let's see what happens. And so I started teaching spin. I did it in the studio for about 3 years, and then this last year, since COVID, I haven't actually taught, and I'm still like nursing and rehabbing some hip injuries. So now I've moved into Pilates. I actually just came from Pilates. I was there like about an hour and a half ago.
So what was it about? I've done spinning. What was it about spinning that caught your attention? 10 years is a long time. I'll do it here and there, um, and then what is it in spinning versus like being out on nature?
Well, I mean, I enjoy nature too, because I do trail run, and I'm always outside. So I do all the different things, right? But I think spinning in itself, the one thing I can say that spinning does that like no other workout that I've done in the past does, if you wear spin shoes, which gives you more leverage. I think a lot of people know, wear bike shoes, you get more leverage because pedals actually, you're getting the negative and the positive. And so when you're bringing around the negative, what actually happens is this little tiny area right under the back of your butt, between your hamstring and your butt, gets really fit. And for a lot of women, that is a key cellulite area. It's really hard to sculpt that. And so if you're really careful with your strokes of how you're spinning and what your feet and your pedal movement is, you can actually super tone this little hard part of your butt that you could never really work on, because squats actually don't get it. And so there's a lot of different pieces like that. If you're good on your form in spinning and you're able to just go, you can get your cardio up, you can use a lot of muscles. You're not really using your upper body, but anything from your core down is going to get a really, really good workout. And then if you're really infusing the breath work, and you're also doing periodization, which is like rest and high performance, you get a lot of benefit out of it, and you can actually increase your VO2 max. So there's a lot of stuff in spinning that you really want to actually pay attention to, and get an instructor who really knows how to work you through all the different levels. Because once you get to the level of being there for 10 years and you can basically teach a class, it's hard to press forward unless the person is pushing you. So if you're not with an instructor who can keep pushing you as you get more skills in spinning, you're going to basically tap out, and then you'll have to do what I did, which is go teach class.
Wow, you know what? I've never tried a spinning class with the shoes on. I know it makes a big difference. I have to try that one day. That probably makes it safer than on a road bike. I like to watch the Tour de France, and
Yeah.
those shoes on those bikes, they lock in. So that's why those guys can't jump off the bike and they break their hip, because they're just locked into the bike. So spinning is safer in that way.
Yeah,
Uh,
because the bike is stationary, right? So like when you lock
right.
in, you just have to laterally pull your foot off and it'll unclip. So yeah, but trust me, that skill, it takes a while to acquire, because even after I was teaching, I've still totally almost ripped my shoe off trying to get off the bike. So
And then let's talk about that sound healing, which is something I like a lot. I've tried it, and when I tried it, I felt some sort of blockage, like right here, and then I kept listening to the same thing, and then it went away, and now I just use it to go to sleep.
yes, yeah, no, that's the main function, is to go to sleep. So for folks who don't know what sound healing does, basically there's different notes, different keys that resonate and help your body, like we're talking about energy, vibrate at a frequency that can actually feel things. Oh yeah, people are clapping. See, where people understand how sound healing works. the crystal bowls that I work with have different chakras that they're attuned to. And when you play them, different notes come out, and that actually helps open up and really open up the energy flowing in that particular chakra. And they're all aligned by color. So my set, you'll see a lot of people with white crystal bowls. That's the kind of typical yogi sort of thing. I wanted the colorful ones that really represent what your chakras are. So they actually are all colored according to your chakras. And I do 8 minute to 20 minute, somewhere around there, meditations that I've been sending to my friends. So the intent is that I'll be selling these at some point, and that people will be able to buy them. And I'll be doing both voiceover guided meditations as well as just the pure sound healing ones. And so right now, a lot of folks that are betaing them, like just like Ray was talking about, are people who just kind of know that I do it and have been lucky enough to get the DM with the link. And really, what it's going to grow into is a practice that Ray and I are going to infuse into other types of our work, and that we'll be able to kind of link to and share new meditations and things like this. And so keep rocking with Ray, and you'll get access to them.
Yes, ever since I've been doing them, well, let me rewind a little bit. I was one day watching, this was many, many years ago. I was watching the Travel Channel, and they were talking about three places on Earth that have energy. And Machu Picchu was one. I cannot remember the third, and one of them was Sedona, Arizona. So ever since then, I wanted to go to Sedona, and it was always in the back of my head. And I run a lot of races. And then I looked up. I'm like, let me check one day if there's a marathon in Sedona, and there was. And so I planned it. And I think it was like 4 years ago I went to Sedona for the first time. And if you want to talk about woo, Sedona is the place. I live in LA. LA is pretty liberal. Uh, you can have conversations with people and they won't look at you too weird. But depending on what you talk about, they'll be like, whoa, that might be a little woo, even in LA. But you go to Sedona and no one looks at you weird. They're all like on that vibe. They feel it. And this is really strange. At the time, I was dating a girl and we went up there and we were hiking around. And in my mind, I'm like, man, this feels like this feels like where Earth started. This feels like where everything started. I'm like, but this isn't what I was taught in school. I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut. And then 5 minutes later, it's like she tells me, "Hey, this is where everything started. I feel like this is where it all began." And then I came home and I started looking into more into Sedona and the Hopi Indians. And the Hopi Indians say the Star People came there, and instead of the Bering Strait theory, how everyone came over here, they're saying they settled here and then they went over there. Anyways, I did the marathon and I just kind of started getting more into meditations and everything else. And then I met Wendy, and most people that I meet have a really hard time relaxing. Stress levels are an all time high. We all see what's going on in the world. And even as an athlete, you're stressed out. And if you can't sleep, basically your recovery is going to be where you get your peak performance. So many people have come to me and be like, I can't relax, or the nerves you get before a race, before a jiu-jitsu competition. To me, the most rallying nerves was before I would go into a boxing match. I really had a hard time controlling that emotion. And so me and Wendy kind of, I told her what I thought people needed, and we came up with some meditation, some sound healing to relax, to help you try and get that peak performance in sports. And it'll be available on my website pretty soon. I think maybe tomorrow I'll announce it. I think I should have it up and ready by this weekend. But that's something we've worked on, and hopefully people can use it and get some sort of relaxation. Um, right now, I'm a U.S. Track and field certified level 1 coach, and right now they offered a free course, and I've been taking it on Zoom for I think the last 3 days, and they keep stressing on your recovery is how much you can relax, how much you can take your mind off things. That's if you're stressed out, it's not going to happen. And I truly believe that with a combination, it's never just going to be one thing. It'll be a Reiki. Maybe you won't feel that. Maybe the sound healing, you won't feel that. Maybe some NLP. that physical workout is going to have to be there as well. Um, and what type of, since Wendie is the guest, what type of discussions will you be having on your show, because she is a creator here? Um,
Yeah, so I've been dragging my heels on the fireside creating. I've been working on the clubhouse rooms, so that has been where I've spent a lot of my energy lately. But I want to get back to fireside and have a podcast called Wellness and Woo. So it'll be the Wellness and Woo podcast, and we will be talking about all the things we talked about today, but just in very in very depth form. So exactly like there's somebody here in the audience, Jessica. She'll be on there talking about all the time. And so, we'll talk about crystals, we'll talk about healing, we'll talk about, different modalities, human design, different things that people may not know about. But the primary audience that I want to reach is people of color. Because like I started out talking about when we first came onto this podcast, there's so many people of color who don't know about these practices but could benefit from them, right? And I think that when you think about prevention in our communities, a lot of people of color have these natural predispositions towards health problems because that's the way genetically we have become. And so there's a lot of things that we can do to battle them. And one of the things is reducing your stress, reducing your cortisol. And so when you're thinking about crystals or sound healing, energy healing, meditation, any of this stuff, that is exactly what it does. It helps you relax, helps reduce your cortisol, helps you actually, like I said, clear up your energy fields. And that's where, not only is it part of peak performance, but it's also when you're thinking about who you are as a person, your peak performance as a person, not just an athlete. And so, that's what you're doing when you're not on the court, what you're doing when you're not running, those ways that you interact with your family. How do you talk to people in your community? How do you show up? Those are the kinds of things that kind of push you over the top to being the best person that you can be. And in order to get there, you have to be still at some point. You have to receive. You have to be able to get the downloads from the universe of what you should be doing next. Use your intuition to follow that guidance. And so all of these practices are things that are built into the woo-woo things. And so when we talk about them in a podcast, it'll be demystifying all of these different practices and how do they relate to you and your overall well-being.
yes, there's no way you're going to reach peak performance if you don't have that balance in your life. How are you going to go focus on any sort of sport if you just got into a fight with your wife or something like that? Because, you know, I, we all know the stress levels right now. It's they're really high level. I know for me, people must think, yeah, everything's perfect, but no, I just had my Cadillac converter stolen, so basically left me carless, and I could be all focusing on that, but instead I'm gonna focus on the good. And
You
I've
know,
been
I love
listening.
when you said that. You're just like, but I just had my Cadillac converter stolen. So I know
I
there's still a tinge of
Oh yeah, it was Friday. It was Friday. It was this past Friday.
time we talked about it, and there's still some hurt there. I can
Oh, oh yeah. I mean, it's a whole like upside down change. Like, okay, I've been walking everywhere, and so I don't want people to
run
think,
like
oh,
marathons, though, Ray.
oh,
Right?
right, right. That's what I tell myself, and I don't want people to think, oh, well, just life is easy for everybody. And when you're stressed out, guess what I do? I put on that meditation, and I put it on at night, and I'm like, oh, I need to kind of relax. I need to, a lot of things are going on, just because I mean, I work out a lot, but even then, like mentally, there's things going on in life that you need to clear. And it's not always going to be through physical exercise. Trust me, I've tried it. I've like 3 marathons in 3 days. I've done a marathon and then competed in a jiu-jitsu tournament in within 5 days. And you can still have those inner demons and that peace. It's not like there's something more, but you mentioned you're going after, like, the people of color, and a lot of us people of color have been brought up Catholic or Christian, and a lot of people call that brujeria. What would you say to something like that? Because a lot of us have been brought up that way. I know I went to private school when I was younger.
Yeah, we're laughing because the womb bruja is literally in the house, so it's kind of funny. So I would say that a lot of these practices have no religious base. There's not Reiki isn't based in religion. There, you don't have to subscribe to a religion to actually be part of any of these things. Meditation is something you could just literally do right now, just like you could start running right now. And so, if that's the way that people are seeing it and that's their limiting belief, they're not in a growth mindset. They're not the people I want anyway, right? Honestly, the people I want are people who are in that growth mindset and are curious and want to know more, who really are like, okay, I don't know how to apply this and I want to understand it. So this is a place I can go for that information. So it's kind of somewhere in between, right? Someone who's not like me, who's like way out there doing the woo woo things, knows her human design, like blah, blah, blah. People who are not like, this is brujeria and we don't want to deal with this, like somewhere in the middle.
So for the people that do know, does Reiki incorporate any sort of what people call limpias in Spanish?
Yeah, essentially that's what it is. I think that what we're touching on is that there's different modalities of energy healing. There's a bunch of different ways to come about sort of the same outcome, and a lot of different cultural knowledge from different places in the world that come into the idea of energy healing. So this is just one of many practices, and I think when you're talking about Olympia, that's another way in another culture to express a similar thing, to clean out negative energy. And in that case, it actually has a different applicability. So even though you can set intentions in Reiki in a room and blah blah blah, that's very different from doing a limpia on your house. And so just wanted to make sure that people understand, there's a cultural basis, but then there's also the use of the practice. And when you're looking at energy healing, it's important to find the right practitioner with the right practice for the thing that you need. And sometimes, like I said, you don't know what it is. And so part of the podcast will be giving people examples. Hey, this is somebody, and also a practitioner of color. Quite honestly, that's going to be one of my goals, is to get mostly practitioners of color who would be talking about these woo-woo practices that they do, so that folks can connect to them and say, hey, like I need to do Olympia in my area. Do you know where it is, or whatever? And so I think that there's a lot of benefits to making these kinds of connections for people, because people often don't know where to find the thing that they need.
And I did want to talk about crystals a little bit. I don't have too much experience with it. I think I bought two. I have one right here.
Yeah, my
I
favorite.
bought this in Sedona, Arizona. This you're putting me to shame right there. That's like a sword.
Yeah, so
Wow.
this is a selenite knife, essentially.
Okay.
So this is what I use to cut cords when I'm doing my actual Reiki
Mm,
practice. So this is from my teacher. My teacher Tiffany, my Reiki master, makes these, and it was especially made with intentions for me as a person to use as practitioner. So yeah, you can really jazz out your crystals if you're trying.
wow. I never seen that. That's very cool. I so I was in Sedona because I've gone back. Well, let's see here.
So trunks up
Oh
elephants.
wow, that's nice too. And for everyone who's just listening in, that what type of a crystal is that?
This is, oh gosh, I always forget what it is. Shoot. I knew you were going to ask me, and I was just thinking, let me think for a second, because I do know what this is.
Okay.
Forget. So that one is selenite. This is celestite. So this is one of my bookends that I use. And then I have some other things around here, just laying around. So yeah, I keep crystals all over the house.
I walked into a store in Sedona and a crystal store, just talking to everybody. They had meteorites there. I'm like, how do you know that meteorite is from? They had it like in different locations. And then they kind of started talking to me a little bit, and they kept putting different crystals in my hand. Didn't really feel a connection to any of them, except for this one particular one. Uh, it was like $200. It was super expensive. I didn't buy it, but they had it like way in the back, and she told me that King Tut was buried with that crystal. So I need to look into it more because it was super expensive. And once I found out about that King Tut, when I touched it, I actually felt something woo woo. I guess you could say. There's no other way to describe it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was interesting. But besides that, I haven't found like just a regular crystal. Cord cutting, for those listening in that have never heard that, is that used to basically cut like negative energy or just energy that's no longer needs to be there, like within
Energetic
let's
cords
say
tied to you.
like maybe an ex would be the easiest way to explain it.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Like energetic cords that are tied to you. So like people get bonded through energy, and it could be, like I said, generational. It doesn't have to be something right now. It could be something from your parents and your parents' experience that they passed on to you. And so cutting energetic cords sometimes means doing healing on an ancestral lineage level, but it also could just be energetic cords that have attached to you that are not really serving you in some way. So that's what the cord cutting is. But it can really be done without a selenite knife, to be honest. But I'm curious for you, what crystal was this? Do you know what kind of crystal this was?
Well, I don't know if there's a difference between, well, because I know some of the crystals they actually cut the rock, and that's where they get that beautiful looking crystal. But this was a meteor, so these are meteors that crashed onto Earth, and then they go and they take pieces of them, and then they sell pieces of that meteor. So it's not like a regular crystal that you get on
It
Earth.
could have like multiple things in it, maybe. Because those pieces, those chunks have like multiple crystals.
It was pretty small. It was probably a little bit bigger than this one,
Oh, that's strange.
and yeah. And the reason why I asked them is because up on the shell they had different locations of meteors. I'm like, how do you guys get these meteors? And then how do you know that it's from wherever you claim it's
And how
from?
do you know King Tut actually held it?
Yeah, that's why I had to look it up to see what he was buried with and everything else.
Yeah, no,
I,
a lot of things like that is all about belief, right? Like, so what do you believe in? What do you subscribe to? What do you think is true? And I think that crystals is very much on that spectrum for people of like, do I believe in this or not? I like working with crystals because, like you, I can feel the energy from different crystals, and when I need different things, I know that I bring different crystals into my life. I literally, when I was going to the job that I just left, and like my last day, I had a crystal in my bra that I forgot about. And when I came home and got undressed, this crystal goes flying out, and I was like, "Well, shit. I guess I didn't need that job." According to this crystal, we were going to be fine anyway. And so it's really funny if you're into crystals. There's different uses for them, but also you can keep them around you, or you can keep them on you. Some people will wear them in a necklace or whatever. I wear a lot of jewelry that's made out of different types of crystals, different materials, and so that's how you can kind of apply it in your daily life. Like, you don't need to leave rocks all over your house if you don't want to.
Now, one of the guys at the store told me that certain crystals for him were too powerful, so he could only wear them for a couple of days, and then he'd have to take them off. Is there anything like that that you could add on to? I've never heard that before, and my crystal knowledge is very limited.
Yeah, no, crystals is a whole thing. Like I don't even have the book here, but I have a bunch of books of crystals, and I think that it's interesting to me, crystal jewelry, where you're talking about people wearing different things for too long. I've heard that with a lot of rings, actually. A lot of people who wear the big rings with different stones in them, that they've had to like kind of essentially remove them for a period and then put them back on. But the way I think about crystals is so they kind of call to you. So depending on what you need, you'll gravitate towards one. And it's different for everybody. I actually can put my hand out and feel the energy. Some people, it just looks nice to you. Like you just like, it's a glimmer in my eye. This crystal is kind of cool looking. And you just pick it up and you take it, and that's the one that you need. So it's kind of dependent upon what energetically the universe is asking you to receive. And so if you're looking for a different crystal, and I'm, have them all over my house, for example, but I take some of them with me to my desk for a particular purpose. So if I'm working on copy, if I'm working on something with advertising or whatever, I'll bring a crystal that helps open your throat chakra so that you can communicate more. So you can also use it in an intentional way, and you don't have to kind of wait till the crystal picks you. You can just say, I know what I need, and let me go find the right crystal to keep near me today. And that's how other people do it. Now, you'll also hear people do crystal pulls, or people are pulling cards and they'll pull crystals. And especially if you're on Clubhouse, you're in some Clubhouse rooms and people are like, I'm pulling cards, da da da. So what that is they're working with an oracle card deck, and they're pulling a card that has, or a tarot card or whatever, and it has some sort of meaning on it. And then they'll also simultaneously pull a crystal, and the crystal will have, again, some sort of meaning. And so they'll talk to everybody and tell them, here's the card I pulled, and this is what it means, and here's the crystal I pulled, and here's what it means. And typically when they're doing that, the crystal calls to them. So depending on who's in the room and what the people in the room need, they'll reach out and say, this is the crystal that the room needs. And for a lot of the times that I'm in those rooms, honestly, the things that they pull are probably something that could help me out that day. So I'm a big subscriber to the whole crystal thing, but a lot of people find it maybe like too woo-woo for them.
Now, me myself, I've had Reiki done on me once. I would say within the last 3 years, where I went to a person for 1 hour, and I'm sure, like with everything else, with COVID, for the Reiki practitioners, everything changed. Um, do you guys do Reiki through Zoom? Is it just as effective, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I briefly mentioned that Reiki is a practice that isn't bound by time, right? So time is a man-made construct. And if you're like thinking about it in a quantum physics way, there's a lot of different possibilities of things that are happening at this very moment. And so Reiki is one of those things that can traverse those possibilities. And so you can kind of do it over time and space. And the concept is really weird to people sometimes. So when I just explain it, I think about it as in order to connect to one of your friends, do you know how sometimes you just know that that's the person who text messaged you? And you don't even look at the text message, but you're like, ah, I know that's so and so who just sent that text. And then you look at your phone and you're like, ah, that is that person that I just thought was calling me or whatever. It's kind of like that. You can send it by intention and the person will actually receive it. So if you think about the Reiki as the phone call, and the person going, ah, I actually know that Wendy sent me this thing. It's usually when I send Reiki across distance to someone who's not near me, or if I send it to them at a different time, it'll change their energy. And a lot of the times people will actually be able to feel when they receive it, whether they're in a meditative state or not. They kind of know, oh, something shifted and I don't know what happened or what. And sometimes I actually will connect to their energy in a way that shows me what's going on with them at the moment. And so one of my friends, we were doing a session and he wasn't quite ready yet and I was already doing it. And I kept feeling like this bouncing. And I was like, why am I like just like randomly bouncing? It makes no sense. And so when I talked to him about it after, he was like, oh, he lives in Cancun now. He's an entrepreneur in Cancun. So he's like, I was just wandering down the beach in Cancun and I was dancing with my friends just like this. And I was like, so, okay, cool. So that's one of the clairvoyance, clairsentient qualities that people can actually tap into. If you're really talking about super woo-woo things, then you're talking about clairvoyance, clairaudio, like all of these different skills that people have and can ask to be tapped into at the moment. And so one of my skills is that I can actually feel energetically what's going on with the other person when I'm doing a session. And it might be breathing, it might be a headache, it might be shoulders, whatever it is. And a lot of the times I'll report back to them and say, hey, is your back hurting? Or hey, is your whatever hurting? I felt it, and so I just did a little bit of extra healing for whatever that thing is. And so it could be like a physical ailment, it could be an emotional ailment, it's just whatever.
You know, Reiki, when I had it done, I'll be honest, it's those kind of things where you're just not quite like I felt something, but I'm like, wait, was it more placebo than me actually feeling something? And so for all the people that are kind of wondering and never done it, I would just recommend to try it. It's something I can't really explain it. It's uh, you just should try it and then make your own decision if you want to pursue it or not. Um, it I don't know. I had such a really weird, not weird experience, but for someone who's never had it, just the things that I felt, I'm like, I don't know. It, and there's so many things like that out there that you can try to see if it'll help you relax, get into your peak performance, anything that you want to do. Wendy, have you decided when your show is going to be and how often you're going to do it?
No, I mean, I'm thinking probably late October, early November is when I'll do the actual first show. I need to book out the people who are going to be on it. So I've got to give it some lead time until then. And I'm also starting to deliver courses for my other business. So I've got a lot going on. So we'll see.
All right. Well, I'm sure people are interested to learn more about, the different things that you do. I'm just kind of touching it a little bit. I didn't really have a chance to research if any pro athletes have used crystals, which I'm sure they have because I learned about Reiki and NLP that they do use it. And I'm sure that and then for the people that were in here earlier, some of the really strange beliefs that they have, superstitions that they do. Wade Boggs used to eat fried chicken before every game. It's just really weird things that they had to do. Or I think they said like at 5'17", he'd always have to be out at batting practice. And if you think that, Reiki's too woo woo, just try it out. All these pro athletes have. If you're looking for peak performance and nothing else has worked, um, you can try that out. Also, if anybody in the audience has any questions for Wendy that they would like to ask, maybe about anything Reiki, sound healing, or about the services she offers. Wendy, I also do have your link tree going on the fortune cookie. So if anybody wants to click on it and get more information, they can. But for the people who will just be listening as a podcast, how else can they reach you?
Yeah, so I do a lot of different things. My wellness stuff is on wellnessgrind.com. So it's wellnessgrind.com. And that's where all of my blog posts and courses and other things related to wellness are. And of course, Reiki. So you can go there for that. And then I have a whole other business that's my name, wendyvelos.com, that I help nonprofits and social entrepreneurs to find grant funding. So I do a bunch of different things. You can find me in either place depending on what you need.
And are all the links that you mentioned as well on your link tree?
Not on that link tree, no, because they're two separate businesses. But yeah,
Okay. Well, there you go. This is available for replay immediately. So if you missed any of it, you can watch it. Also, if you feel that there's any valuable information, feel free to share it with your friends. And looking forward for you to actually being on here more and start creating and get people more information. That way, I talked about it was a couple weeks ago about the worst product in history, and it was called the Power Band, and everybody wore it from Shaq to Kobe Bryant, and it was basically a bracelet, and people thought you got more balance with it. It was all placebo, and placebo is so effective. It was like $40 a bracelet. Drew Brees wore it. Do you remember that?
no, but I know people were wearing copper bracelets for a really long time.
Yeah, there was a couple companies that came out with it,
Yeah.
and it's funny because Mark Cuban is like co-founder of this app, and he was like, "No, no, that's not real. That's not a real bracelet. It doesn't work." Because the NBA wanted to put it as like a sponsor. It got really huge. They got sued, and they had to admit that they had no like medical or scientific
No
proof
evidence that all of this works.
at all. And I know a lot of people could be skeptical. I'm very skeptical. For me to even be talking about this or having a guest about this means that I must feel that there's something legitimate about it. Uh, growing up, I got into magic and I learned about Houdini. I learned how Houdini back in the day had, basically the US government wanted to find a bunch of phony people that were, at least in the history of the United States, there was never really any people that communicated with the dead prior to the world wars when a bunch of men lost their lives, sons, husbands, and then all of a sudden all these mediums emerged. And I can help you contact and make peace with your son or your husband. And then the government put up like a large amount of money at the time to anyone who had some sort of like power, any sort of woo woo power, come on up, prove it. And if you can prove it, then you get this money. Well, they had Houdini was one of the persons on the stage that you had to go and present yourself, and they had all these clairvoyants and mediums and everything, and he caught them over and over again. I learned a lot about magic. I can do some mind reading tricks. I don't claim that they're superpowers, but like I said, I'm very skeptical. But at the same time, I know that there's something here that everyone should explore and make your own decision.
That is super cool. I didn't know that. I feel like that's like the best government grant ever. Like, come and show me your magic tricks and I'll give you money. Like, where is that federal grant now? Because I'd be curious. Like, me and my friends would super light up. I don't have any good tricks though. I'm not really good at magic. But I'm very convincing that Reiki's a thing because it is. So I think if people want to ask more questions or find out anything else about Reiki and how it works, feel free to just reach out. But I don't know any magic tricks, so don't reach out for that.
Well, since it is 2021, has there been any sort of like scientific research trying to prove that Reiki is legitimate, or like, I
Yeah. I was
guess,
reading articles today about that. That's funny. I have a potential client who has a heart arrhythmia after the COVID-19 shot. And she was like, okay, is this something Reiki can help with the anxiety? And I was like, ooh, let me make sure that it's not one of those contradicting kind of things that I was talking about earlier with the medical conditions. I was like, yeah, I don't want to do Reiki on you if it's not going to be beneficial. And so, of course, I start looking it up, and it was like article after article. It's like, hey, we did Reiki on this group of people that have high blood pressure or that have this other health condition, and here are the results. And I think the thing is, like you were saying before, it's the stress relief, it's the relaxation, it's the idea that you actually can breathe and be in your body and pay attention to the things that are going on with you and relax. And so some of those pieces help with these other health conditions. And so um, it just depends on what the health condition is. But a lot of the time, when you're looking at these different articles, they are saying that there are benefits from Reiki for whatever these different health conditions are.
and I'm going to be looking into that article or articles as well. There was a few more things I wanted to research, but didn't have time, just to have more information and just share with the people. Because I know this is like, for a lot of people, this is like, whoa, maybe they didn't even get through the first 5 minutes because they're like, oh, he's going to be talking about crystals and what does that have to do with sports and athletics? But that's why I wanted to start off the show with all these crazy things that professional athletes are doing to this day, even drinking their own urine. Me, I'd rather go get a Reiki session than drink my own urine just to relax. I find that I can cut cords in different ways. I went through my NLP training recently, and I did that. I always mispronounce it, Hana, and we did cutting cord, and
Yeah.
wow, I think maybe that's like the first time I've experienced that type of like peace, like pretty instantly.
Yeah, I think if people are skeptical even after listening to only 5 minutes of this, again, those are people that just are, it's maybe not for them at this time, right? But over time, I think sometimes people change their mind. And so the more that you give them information and the more you explain things and the more that they know people who've tried these practices and it works for them, then you see that kind of mindset change. But if it's not somebody, like I said, who's in a growth mindset, who's really looking, and honestly, here's my challenge back to people. This is like the real. If you're a real athlete and you're looking for peak performance, you're going to be in a growth mindset. Like you have to be, because you're trying the weight, I mean, the water deprivation tanks, you're trying like salinated baths, you're trying, ice baths, you're trying all these different things for your body. But why not try something that actually infuses your soul and your energy with your body and make sure that you're holistically taking care of yourself? So you can try all these other things you want, but if you are still not in a growth mindset, you're not going to be able to benefit from any of this. And I think that that's where, if you're really trying to get to peak performance, you really have to be in a growth mindset.
I 100% agree with that because, as I mentioned earlier, there's no way you're going to have peak performance if you're just not complete. I mean, I'm sure it happens. There's always that exception to the rule, but to be focused 100% on what you're doing, the sport you're doing, you can't have distractions, especially of things within yourself. That makes it really difficult and just causes a lot of anxiety as well. And before we close out here, Wendy, I just want to make sure, is there anything maybe that I forgot to mention that you want to mention, or anything else you want to let listeners know how they can find you or anything like that? Feel free to do so.
I mean, I think just going back to the sound healing meditations, there are definitely different ones that we did. Ray gave me intentions for each of them, and so they'll be named. When Ray puts them up, they'll kind of mention what intention they're for. So if you're looking to get access to those, please make sure that you're going to Ray's website, and that you'll be able to get access to the ones that you need. And if you don't see something there, just reach out to me and we'll figure it out. So always happy to support, your community, Ray, and the people that you're building with, because I know that you have a lot of folks who are in, making sure that they have a healthy lifestyle, and that's what I'm all about, is holistic wellness. And so happy to also support, anyone in your community as well.
Thank you for that. And if anybody wants to go to my website, it's coachrayz.com. And basically, the meditations and sound healing that I have with Wendy, they're going to be more like for sports, in if you could kind of describe it that way, and for relaxation. Um, and so anything else that you want to reach out to her, because these are kind of basically custom, you can reach out to her and she can work on it for you. And I wanted to thank you so much for being here. Uh, and can't wait to see you on Fireside with your own show. Uh, Also, please join me tomorrow. Tomorrow, I will be having Ricky Rack, who's from Honduras. He was a former corporate lawyer, and now he teaches jujitsu, which it will be very interesting to find out how jujitsu got to Honduras. And I would love to know how his family felt after he stopped being a lawyer to practice jujitsu. You know, in the Latin community, I just know you're an orgullo if you're a lawyer. So I that's like one of my first questions I want to ask him. And the last thing I want to mention is I am an ambassador for the Webby Agility Ladder, which is kind of like a ladder, but it goes in a circle. It was created by a UFC fighter. And if you use Coach Ray Z10, you get 10% off. And I'll be showing some more videos on how you can use it to incorporate in your workouts. So thank you so much for joining me today. This is Athletic Definition. Join me tomorrow. And thank you so much, Wendy, for being here. Thank you for everyone in the audience and everyone else listening worldwide.
Yeah, thanks, Ray, for having me. Thanks for coming, guys.